Welcome into Training Camp Report presented by Advent Health. Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith. It's our favorite day of camp. As you can tell, we're in the indoor. We're in the AC. It's the best.
I am enjoying it.
Yes, it is glorious in here, but also it is really cool because it is the evening practice of training camp,
right,
which lets a lot of people come that maybe can't make it in the mornings. And
this place is packed.
This place is absolutely packed, and it creates such a cool atmosphere with it being in the indoor, and you got, before practice, you got music pumping out here, you got all the fans in here, and it makes it feel like a pretty cool kind of game-like atmosphere, which is a lot of fun.
Sure, yeah.
So I enjoy that a lot, and so I wanted to hear for you some of the big takeaways from the last practice that we had, day 5. It was our first day in pads, which outside of the AC day is our other favorite day of training camp. So tell me your takeaways from the first day of pads.
Well, obviously the pads going on is a big deal, and there's a ramp-up period that the NFL requires you to do in terms of the length of the practices and what you can wear. So they went from like just helmets to spiders, and now they're on Monday. It's hard to keep the day straight.
I know.
It was Monday, right?
Days mean nothing in training camp.
It was pads, which is shoulder pads and thigh pads for the most part, which means hitting, which means intensity goes up, and it's also hot out there, and it's hotter. And so, as Coach Bowles said before that day, on Sunday, in anticipation of that day, what does he want to see? And to him, he said it has to come down to fundamentals and technique, because when it gets hotter and sweatier and harder, are you still keeping your fundamentals? Because if not, things fall apart pretty quickly. So, I heard from some players, Servase Dennis said it definitely increased the intensity level. They're still not tackling each other to the ground, because that would be a foolish thing to do.
Yes.
You
want to keep everybody
put yourself
healthy.
up for injuries. But they're hitting each other more, and it's more important in the trenches. And now the receivers don't have such free releases all the time. So
yes, and speaking of the trenches, we had a glorious tweet showing Vita Vea absolutely crushing a Gatorade. To your point, it is incredibly hot out there. I cannot believe that these guys are able to do it. It is absolutely mind-boggling. So I'm sure they're happy for a day in the air conditioning.
By the way, cold Gatorade in a can, especially orange,
best thing in the world.
The most refreshing liquid in the world.
Completely agree.
I don't know why.
We posted something else about it, and all of our fans of the whole post about Vita, he was like shotgunning a Gatorade can, and all the posts were there's Gatorade in a can.
Oh, you can't buy it anywhere.
It's like only a thing that apparently you have to be on an NFL team to get, which is pretty funny. All right, so we also, we talked about the fact that during these you get to do a lot of one-on-one drills, which is one of the things we love to watch in pads. What stood out to you about that?
Well, they didn't do the OLDL one-on-ones yet. I'm sure that's coming, maybe even tonight. But they did wide receiver DB one-on-ones, and that is a drill that is obviously very tilted towards the offense.
Right.
They complete the majority of their passes. There's no other defenders out there to help you. There's no pass rush. So DB, and I was standing pretty close to Kevin Ross, the cornerbacks coach, and I heard him say multiple times to his players, "We know what one-on-ones are." He's like, "You did a good job. Your coverage was good on that. You led him in the right direction." He still caught the pass, but you did a good job.
Yes.
But you can still see some highlights. And I thought one player that really stood out to me, well, this is kind of obvious, but Chris Godwin put on a route running clinic. I saw him turn one guy around, and we don't like to name names when it's the negative side of it. Just with an unbelievable coming out of the slide, kind of an inside and an outside move. And it was unbelievably crisp route. He did it on all of his reps.
And it's a kind of a reminder of why we're excited to see him in the slot a little bit more, that's a route that you're like, ooh, that's that bread and butter we're excited to see again.
I can see that happening a lot. A couple other guys, now I'm an untrained eye. And again, this favors the offense. I thought Sterling Shepard had a really good drill. I think he caught the pass on all of his reps. I saw him get separation multiple times. I saw him make a contested catch on one of them when there wasn't as much separation. I thought rookie tight end Devin Culp showed off his speed and caught the ball really naturally, and that would be a nice thing to see. And then I think there was one more. I have to look down at the notes here. I can't quite read it.
The Jalen McMillan.
Jalen McMillan, the rookie, who's had a good camp so far. He had several really nice reps as well. Again, we understand it's an offense tilted drill, but I thought those three players looked really good in that drill.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And Tristan Wirfs, to me, a big takeaway so far has just been his presence. He's here, he's participating, and especially when the pads went on, I think that was one of the days we were really wondering, what is this going to look like if his contract isn't signed yet? How much will he participate once it's pads? And, there's just a little bit more contact going on. So tell us what you saw of what he did and did not participate in.
Well, he didn't do the team drills, and the team knew that. He had talked to Coach Bowles about it. They had agreed on it. I don't think everybody's on the same page here. And, we've talked a lot, and people have talked a lot about the fact that he's here and he's getting mental reps, and he just doesn't want to be away from the team. He said that multiple times. It's not in his DNA, he said. So he's not a holdout guy. But also, when I heard he was going to talk to the media after practice, I was like, that was a little bit unexpected.
Right.
But then, the guy that's in the contract talks, you're going to put him in front of the camera. But once he got up there, it was pretty natural. I mean, it's just, he's in a good place. He thinks the contract talks are in a good place. He says they're moving along well. So I think we should be pretty confident that this is all going to get done. He said there's some minor details to work out, but it's clear he thinks it's going to be done. I think he would like to get it, and the team would like to get it done as soon as possible so we can start getting some actual full team reps, considering that you're installing a new offense. But that's what we're all hoping for, sooner rather than later.
Right, and you brought up confidence, and that seems like a perfect word to talk about.
I brought up what?
Confidence.
Confidence.
That the idea of Baker being so confident, the team overall seeming so confident, that there's just this vibe right now, and I think both Tristan Wirfs and Coach Bowles hit on this
idea. They both said that, yeah.
That this feels like a confident group, and that Baker in particular seems to be incredibly confident going in.
We heard that from him, and he said the great quote, when I get settled in, or when I settle in, good things happen.
Yep.
I love that quote. I think it's the best one in camp so far. It's not just him, though. It's not just him that has the confidence. The team, the coaches, they think that where Baker is now is a reason for confidence for the entire team. And that's how Tristan feels. That's how Coach Bowles feels. And I think that's how we feel. It's not necessarily how the national media feels, but when we talk about the gulf in expectations between the national media and how it feels within the building, I think that's probably the biggest reason why this team has so much confidence in what Baker can bring this year.
Yeah, and I think we have a stat line here to show about Baker Mayfield, which is pretty exciting. Mood when you're the only QB to join Tom Brady in franchise history with 4K passing yards, 25-plus passing TDs, 10 or fewer INTs in a single season.
Good stat.
Cheesin'. That's a pretty great stat there. I really enjoy that. All right, well, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to be joined by none other than Bucs reporter Greg Auman, who works for Fox Sports, so make sure you come back then.
You go through stuff. Not just in football, but in life. The thing is, you can be in the driver's seat 1 minute, and after a couple of dead ends,
who's going to want to take Baker?
you're just trying to find the way.
And where's he going to go that's worth the damn anyway?
And after all the ups and downs, all the sacrifices made,
Baker went and he balled out.
so much of my story has been about those who didn't believe. But not today. This is about a team that embraced me. A crew that lifted me up. I've been called every name in the book.
This year's Heisman Trophy winner. Baker Mayfield putting him on his back.
But now, you can call me a Buccaneer.
Oh, it's caught! Deep, he's got it. Mike Evans. Mayfield loading up downfield. He connects. Touchdown! And he lets him hear about it. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Football is a complex game, but it's also simple. I believe in Tampa Bay because they believe in me.
Welcome back into Training Camp Report presented by Advent Health. Casey Phillips here, now joined by Fox Sports reporter Greg Auman. Greg, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah, and you picked a perfect day to come on with us in the AC.
I waited till it was indoors.
Yes.
I had demands.
This is how we know you're a veteran reporter who knows what he's talking about. So tell me, for you, when you come into a training camp, I'm sure as a reporter you have your storylines that you're already looking for. What were those for you this year coming in, maybe one on each side of the ball that you were really excited to watch?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think new faces are always where it starts. And so much of this team and kind of the identity this offseason was how much they brought back. So we know those guys. We know their story. So I think it's definitely the new faces. And even some of the new faces are old faces. So a guy like Jordan Whitehead is a guy we know well and know. But I think on offense, Graham Barton is certainly interesting. Liam Cohen and seeing what this new offense will look like, that's definitely a big part of things for me. On the defensive side of things, honestly, I think it'll be neat to see how much more we get and how much more we see from Kalijah Cansey, from Yaya Diaby in their second year. I think people always get excited about the rookies that make an impact, but sometimes the biggest leap is that year 1 to year 2 for guys like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think outside linebacker is one of the positions that is going to be really interesting to see who are the starters, who makes the team. It's one of the more unknown groups. Who are the guys that you're really watching for that, and how you think that might shake out?
Right. Well, and it's wild because so much of it has changed in terms of the hierarchy. He had told us a year ago that Yaya Diaby would be the most absolute set-in-stone starter in that position. You wouldn't believe it. So to have them, and then what's neat is that you don't know where Chris Braswell is going to fit in. I think there's excitement there. I think by the end of the year, it'll be a lot like Diaby. It'll be a guy that stepped in and been a starter. But right now, you have Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, you have Anthony Nelson. We don't have to talk about Randy Gregory right now. He would have been in the mix. And honestly, Marquise Watts is a guy I'm really excited about too. We saw very small doses of Marquise Watts, but he's somebody they're really excited about, and I think somebody that could make a difference in that rotation if he's part of the group too.
And I think one of the other big storylines in terms of starting positions up for grab, there aren't as many, maybe, and that's a great sign. It shows you, like you said, there's a lot of guys coming back that have solidified that. But that interior of the offensive line, particularly the left guard spot, what do you feel like that interior could look like, and how that could change what this offense is able to do, what Liam Cohen's able to dial up, and how that could look? Yeah,
I mean, I think that's, in terms of areas that can make improvement and progress, that might be the most improved area of the team if things go as planned. Super excited. I know they're very high on Graham Barton and what he can bring. And it's not so much a knock on what they've had the last 2 years. I think Robert Haynes has done a great job filling in, but he's never really been the plan. So to be able to address center with a first-round draft pick, left guard probably isn't as sure a thing right now, but it seems like Ben Bredesen has that job right now. We've seen him working with the ones. Graham Barton talked to the media earlier tonight and was talking about how much Ben's helped him, sitting next to him, being next to him as somebody that's been in the NFL for 5 years and can show him how things work. So, no, I think they're bigger. I think they're stronger inside. Cody Mauch on the right side, another guy who can make a big leap in year 2. If they want to have the balanced offense they've wanted to have, it has to be better up front. Mm-hmm. And I think they feel like that's a good starting point to get the running game to where it's not the trouble, the inconsistency that has been in the past, and just to be better overall as an offense.
And speaking of the offense, tell me the weapons in your mind that you're excited to see get deployed this year in terms of, we know who Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Rachaad White, that's been your big three in that sense. Who else do you see as maybe emerging, and how much more do they need from people outside of those three? Yeah,
I think the name you have to start with right now is Jalen McMillan. Third-round draft pick out of Washington, has really impressed. This first week of camp is no pads, but to see how comfortable he is, making plays, can contort his body in the air. You already see a connection between him and Baker Mayfield, especially in the red zone. I've probably seen 4 or 5 touchdowns with this move already. So, last year I think because Russell Gage was out, they didn't get nearly as much out of that third receiver. And when you have two guys that are as proven and as well-known as Evan and Godwin are, it should open up something where, your third receiver's on a nickel, on a safety. It's something you could take advantage of. And I think they're in better position to do that this year with Jalen than what they had last year with Trey Palmer-Philman, and had some big catches by the end of the year. But I would say Jalen McMillan's the first name I'd give you there.
I love that. Well, Greg, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it, and I want to make sure I encourage everyone to read his stuff. Even as much as I'm around the team, I learn stuff when I read his stuff as well. So thank you again. Great to see you as always. We got one more segment coming up here. We'll be right back.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. There's been a lot of exciting days here, sitting here at this table.
This Mike?
Oh, totally. Today is no different.
Mike Evans, Jason White, General Manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How you doing?
We were fired up before the draft. We're ecstatic now.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Mike Evans.
Today, right now, without Mike, without further ado, Mike Evans.
Hey, let's be the smartest and damn sure the most physical team today.
Just really happy to be a Buc.
Whatever it takes to win, man, don't gotta be pretty.
I really wanted Tampa Bay to pick me. I was praying they wouldn't pass on me.
It's going to be like basketball on grass. Throw the ball up.
Mike Evans, touchdown Tampa Bay, Mike Evans.
Give me some love, man. I think he's going to have some fun.
He's got it.
I never thought, come from Galveston, Texas. It's hard to make it out of there. I did it. All my hard work's paying off. Living out my dream.
Welcome back into Training Camp Report presented by Advent Health. Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith. There's some very large men practicing right behind us, so I'm going to have your back if you have mine. Make sure we don't get run over, although our ratings would probably go through the roof, so maybe we should sacrifice ourselves here.
Did you get some good insights from Greg? It's nice to have an outside voice.
It is, yeah. He was great, and of course he shared your enthusiasm for Jalen McMillan, of course, which I think at this point now is becoming a running theme of this camp, which is pretty exciting. You never want to get too two in a rookie's head.
You don't want to get over your skis on rookie
Yes.
receivers in particular because
Yes.
they tend to flash. But what coaches want to see is them doing it day after day after day, and I think Jalen has done that so far.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch. For now, as we have been doing in this final segment, we are going to cover a position group and go over not only potential starting roles, but the whole thing, who might make it. We've done, safety. We've done a couple other ones now, linebackers. Yeah. Today, we're going to talk about, as you can see based on what our camera's focusing on, the running back crew. We know that guy. He carried the load last year.
He did a lot last year.
He did a lot. He was busy.
He played more snaps than any other running back in the league.
Wow, yep. I did not know that.
Yes.
Man, he and K-Dot need a club of just
yeah, exactly.
the high volume
Yeah,
people.
from about week 9 on and playoffs included, the only other running back that got even a single offensive snap on offense was Chase Edmonds, who's currently nursing an injury.
A little bit.
But yeah, they were banking on him. And as you know, his what he was doing in the passing game from the beginning of the season was great. The running game wasn't coming along as well early on, but it really picked up in the second half. I think they were pleased that he started to get more decisive in hitting the holes rather than trying to be the sort of Le'Veon Bell, try to hesitate type of style. And I think it worked out a lot better as that went along. So that's a good sign going forward. Now, Rachaad White had, I think, 1,539 yards from scrimmage last year. And whether you get that running or throwing, that's yards. And that was good. And that was a very good season. He was among the top 5 in the league among running backs in that category. So he gave us great production. We'll see this year whether or not he can maintain that momentum from the end of the season in terms of running the ball and getting you at least 4 yards a carry. Liam Cohen has made such a big point out of how the running game has to be better this year.
Yeah.
That's like his main point.
Yeah, and I'm sure, again, when we've talked about the additions they might be making on the offensive line, I'm sure that's going to be a huge part of this whole group of guys.
That's the whole point, yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole point here. And so, all right, so after Rachaad, how much is it important for there to be some other guys? What would be the ideal scenario of how many other guys are contributing and in what way?
Yeah, we just talked about how Rachaad had the most snaps of any running back, and I don't think that is the plan. I don't think that's what they want. And I drafted Bucky Irving thinking that, running backs that are talented can, and probably at that position more than any other, is one where they can make an impact as a rookie because, yes, they have to learn the offense, but it's pretty straightforward what they have to do. And if they have the talent, they can immediately make an impact. And I know they love Bucky as a guy they think can be a 3-down back, just like Rachaad. So it's not like if those are the duo, if that's the main duo, it's not Rachaad is first and second down as Bucky and Bucky's third down. It'd probably be more like Bucky spells him for a series here and a series there, and whoever has the hot hand gets more playing time. But they like him running between the tackles. They like him when he gets into the second level, the quick second move and go. They like him as potentially a kickoff returner as well. And if he can prove that he can protect the passer, which is probably the biggest thing for a rookie running back getting on the field, then he's got a shot to play a lot. And you asked me what I think the structure would be. I think probably a duo where the split is not anything like 90-10 like it was last year, but more like 70-30 or 60-40. Right. And is there a spot for another back to make an impact? Probably a third back, but we'll see how that develops.
So what, in your mind, third back, fourth guy on the roster, how many running backs are we keeping? What all are the factors with that, and what type of guys would they maybe need to spell them?
You generally keep 4, but not necessarily 4 of them active on game days. So it could potentially be 3 and maybe a guy or 2 on the practice squad, but probably the case will be they keep 4. And if you're going to have a helmet on, if you're that third and fourth running back, if you're going to have a helmet on, you got to do something on special teams.
Yeah.
So Chase Edmonds, he's hurt right now. We mentioned that, but they re-signed him after last year because he's just a veteran who does everything right. And he actually did some nice things on offense when he got a chance to spell Rachaad. And then you have Sean Tucker, who they were really high on as an undrafted free agent last year, and so much so that he was basically the second running back when the season began. Now, the whole running game as a whole wasn't going well early on, and he ended up kind of losing his spot on the depth chart to Chase, but it's still a guy they're high on in terms of his talent. And then you have 2 new rookies that were undrafted in Ramon Jefferson.
Ramon Jefferson,
from Kentucky, and DJ Williams from Arizona.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see.
Ramon Jefferson played under Liam Cohen at Kentucky last year, so obviously I don't think we'd bring him in here if Liam said, no, this guy doesn't have a shot.
Right? Yeah, that's an interesting point. Well, that's going to be an interesting group to watch for sure, and I'm excited to see Rachaad White behind a new-look offensive line. And, again, Bucky Irving just seems to be such a good pickup, potentially. I feel like he could make a big difference right away. It'll be interesting to watch again with the pass pro. That's usually what gets the rookie running backs is can they step in and pick up a blitz?
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see.
I always say this I said it earlier in the show when I was talking about the receivers and the one-on-ones. I'm not an NFL scout. If an NFL scout was standing here and I said, boy, Jalen McMillan had a great period, he might go, well, there was this and that. So take it with a grain of salt. But one thing I personally think I've seen from Bucky Irving is that he's looked extremely good catching passes out of the backfield.
That's
just a
deal.
very natural pass catcher, like on sort of a release from the backfield and you're angling towards the sideline, you catch the ball like this and then turn it up quickly.
Yep.
I've seen him make that play multiple times, and I thought he's looked really good in that regard.
It's a great sign. All right, well, I think that is going to do it for us on this edition of Training Camp Report presented by Advent Health. Thank you so much for being here with us. Tomorrow is another player off day, so we will have no show, but then we'll be back again Thursday morning when they return to practice. We'll see you then.